Hey guys, in today's Halloween tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to crochet my candy corn mummies. So this guy right here is the one that I'll be showing you in the video, but I do like to show you my practice pieces, so in the next couple of clips, I will show you what I started off with. This guy right here was my first candy corn that I made, and I like it, but I didn't like it because of the single crochet white border that I did. I felt like I didn't know how to close it off in the beginning, so that's why I tried the white border, and I felt like it wouldn't make a big difference because I wrapped it, but honestly it still kind of bothered me, so I had to do another one, which it looks a little bit different, but this is the first guy, and I feel like there's not like a huge difference between these two here, but you know, like I can see what I don't like about it, so that's why I went to my second piece, which is this guy here. This is my second candy corn that I made, and I actually really liked him. I liked him more than this guy right here, but when I asked people which one looks better, everybody said this one. So I was like, I don't really like this one though, because it really bothered me with this white border, and so I was like, let me keep this one, but then I was like, no, I have to make another one. So I did make a third one, but I wanted to talk about this one just for a little bit. So for this guy, I did make him a bigger triangle, and then I pushed in the corners. I'll insert a clip of what I did, and then I also add this little scar here, but I didn't put him on my last piece. I feel like I could have, but I just didn't. So for this guy, I did like it, but no one else really did. So I was like, you know what, I'll make a third piece and see what happens. So I'll show you the third guy. This guy was my third and final attempt at a candy corn. I think he looks really adorable. I probably could have made him look a little bit better, but I think it's still really cute, which is why I decided to go ahead and make this tutorial. But I do want to show you what the comparisons look like. So this guy right here was the first one, and this is the second. So remember how I said I didn't like that white border? So what I did here was I single crocheted with the corresponding color, and then I stitched it with a threading needle close. This was a full single crochet border close, and then this guy, he was stitch closed, but I still didn't like the way it looked. I also wanted to mention that these two guys right here, they are a full triangle piece. So what I mean by that is it kept expanding outwards, but for this one I didn't want it to be like so pointy, which is weird because my friends said they like this one because it is pointy, but I felt like the candy corn is more like round at the corners. So what I ended up doing here was I did the same number of stitches instead of expanding it. So that's why this guy looks like this, and I'm not sure if most people care about this part, but I do like to explain it because I like to talk about my process. And anyways, if you're interested in making one of these guys, I'll let you know what you'll need in the next couple of clips. Before I get into the supplies, I actually wanted to show you these two guys. So these are the same pattern. So this is the one that I practiced with, and then this is the one I did for the video. It does look a tiny bit different because of the eyes. I decided to do green eyes on this guy because I just wanted to see how it looks. This one is 10 millimeters and this is 9 millimeters. Also, this one looks a little bit bigger because I did use actual stuffing. And for this guy, I used yarn as stuffing because I ran out. So he's a little bit less full. But now I can get into what you guys will need for this project. I'll be using a 5 millimeter crochet hook. I'll be using 3 different colors of yarn. The first one is from Big Twist, the Value yarn, and this one is in the color orange. The next one I have is the Big Twist Value yarn in the color Varsity Yellow. Lastly, I have the Cairns 1 pound yarn. I think this one is just called white, but you can use any yarn you like, just make sure it's a weight of 4. I'll also be using embroidery thread and a threading needle. Today I'll be using colored safety eyes, and these are 9 millimeters. For my practice pieces, I did use 10 millimeter safety eyes, and they were all in black. So you can use either 9 or 10. I'm just going with 9 because the colored ones, I only have them in size 9. You will also need scissors and a hot glue gun. Lastly, you will need some stuffing, and I'm currently running out, so I will just use some of this excess pieces of yarn I have to stuff my project. To start off with our white yarn, and we're going to create a slip knot. So for our slip knot, I like to hold my yarn in half like this, and then I'll twist it, and then with this side I'm going to grab some of the yarn and pull it through, and then I'll take my crochet hook and insert inside the loop and just pull it down. For row 1, we're going to chain 2, and a chain is yarning over your hook and pulling through. So that was 1. You're going to yarn over, pull through again for a chain of 2. Now we're going to single crochet 2 times into the first chain, which is this one here. So let's go into that chain. We're going to pull some of this yarn through. We have 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through 2 of those loops. So now you have to do that one more time into that same chain. So let's go in, pull this yarn through. There's our 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through 2. So that is the end of round or row 1. So for this project, every time you end a row, you need to chain one. So let's do that now. Yarning over our hook and pulling through, and then you have to turn your work. So I just turned it like this. Now we're working on the other side. And so for this side, it might be a little bit hard to see in the beginning, but this right here is going to be your first stitch, and then this is the second. So what we need to do now is single crochet into that first stitch. So it's literally right in this corner piece. So let's go into that stitch and do one single crochet. So I just insert my hook into that stitch, and now I'm pulling through. So there's my 2 loops on the hook. Now I'm going to yarn over and pull through both. Now into the second stitch, which is this one here, we're going to do an increase, which is 2 single crochets. So for this project, it's going to be single crochets throughout the whole way. So let's insert our hook into that stitch. That was one. Now I need to do one more into that same stitch. So now you can see the opening is a little bit bigger for us to go in. For a second single crochet, there's my 2 loops, yarning over and pulling through. We just finished row 2. Now at the end of the row, remember we need to chain 1. So let's yarn over our hook, pull through, and then we have to turn our work. And now we have 3 stitches. So that's 1 at this corner, 2 in this middle, and 3 at the end. So this time we're going to single crochet into the next 2 stitches. So let's go into this corner stitch for 1 single crochet. Now we're going into this middle stitch for 2, or our second single crochet, and now into this last stitch we have to do an increase. So let's go into the stitch for 1 single crochet, and now another one into that same stitch, and that is the end of row 3. So what we just did again was a single crochet into the first 2 stitches, then an increase. Now we have to chain 1. So let's yarn over our hook, pull through, and turn. So now we're moving on to row 4. Before I start row 4, I wanted to show you one of my other pieces. So you do need 2 of these, and for this white right here, you can see that this is where we started our slip knot. So that's that excess piece of yarn, and right here you can see it's on the top of one of my finished pieces. So what we're doing is, you can see we're working from the pointy top here outwards. So this is what it's going to look like. This is how we're starting off, and then it's going to expand outward. So in case you were confused which way your triangle piece is going, this is what it's going to look like. We're starting from the top part. I cannot get this hair out. Okay, we're starting from this top part going outwards. Now getting back to row 4, what we're going to do is single crochet into the next 3 stitches. So again, we do work into this corner piece here. So let's go into that stitch for 1 single crochet. Let's go into the next one for our second single crochet, and then our third single crochet into that next stitch. And now at the end, we're going to increase. So I'm not sure if you noticed by now, but every time you reach the end, we're always doing an increase. So let's go into this stitch for 2 single crochets to make an increase. So that was 1, and then I'm going in again to that same stitch for another single crochet. So then you want to chain 1 and turn your work. So that was the end of row 4. For row 5, we're going to single crochet into the next 4 stitches. So there's my corner stitch. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now into the last stitch, we're going to do an increase. So it's this guy here. 1 single crochet and 2 into the same stitch. And then to end this row off, you want to chain 1 and turn your work. For row 6, we're going to single crochet into the next 5 stitches. There's my corner stitch. That's my first single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And into our last stitch, let's do an increase. So this one here, that's 1 single crochet and 2 into the same one. So now to end off or to start off the new row, you will chain 1, turn your work, and now we can begin row 7. For row 7, we're still doing increases, so we're going to single crochet into the next 6 stitches. So go into this corner, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then into the last stitch, you want to do an increase. So here is my last stitch, and there's 1 single crochet and 2 into the same one. And then once you reach the end, we have to yarn over to chain 1 and turn our work. Row 8 is going to be our last row working with this white yarn. So let's start off with single crocheting into the first 7 stitches. So there's the corner. That's going to start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Then remember, every time we reach the end, we're going to do an increase. So let's go into that last stitch for 2 single crochets. 1 and 2. Now before you start your chain 1 or do anything, we're actually going to cut off some of this yarn so we can attach our orange. Here I have my orange yarn, but first I'm going to take my scissors and cut off some of this yarn, leave some room because we do need to tie it together. Here's what I like to do. So I still have this loop here, and I mean, you can always attach yarn different ways, but for this project I'm going to take my orange yarn and I'm going to fold it in half so I can create this little loop. And then what I do is I take my hook and I go from the back, and inside this white yarn I'll pull some of this orange through. So there it's through that white loop. Now I'm going to take the white yarn and pull it down. And then I'll just tie these 2 end pieces together. So you can see these 2 pieces here. I'll just tie that to make it secure. You can tie it once or twice. I'll tie it one more time just to make sure it's secure. So this is going to be the inside of my triangle because you can see that we have these pieces of yarn, so we're just going to leave that on the inside. So now since this is my back piece, I'm going to take my hook and insert it into the orange loop now. And we're just going to pull it down just a bit. So now we can start with our chain 1. So let's yarn over our hook and pull through. And then we're going to turn our piece. And there you can see this is our clean side, which is going to be the outside. So now we're going to start with row 9. For row 9, we're going to single crochet into the first 8 stitches and then increase. So this pattern is kind of repetitive. It's basically the same thing. You're single crocheting throughout the entire piece until you reach the end for a increase. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then into our last stitch, let's do an increase. So that's 1 single crochet and 2 into the same. So now let me quickly show you what this currently looks like. And that's what it's looking like with our first orange row. For row 10, you want to chain 1, turn your work, and then you're going to single crochet into the next 9 stitches and then increase. I might speed this part up so the video isn't too long, but I'll see when I edit. So let's just do a single crochet into our next 9 stitches. So this is 2, and this is my 9th single crochet, and into the last stitch we're going to do an increase. So that was one single crochet, another one into the same stitch, and then when we want to begin a new row, we're going to chain one, that's yarning over your hook and pulling through, and then you're going to turn. So now moving on to row 11, let's single crochet into the next 10 stitches and then increase. Remember, always go into your corner stitch when you start off. So that's 1, this is 9 and 10. And then into the last one, we're going to do an increase. So there's my last stitch. That was one single crochet and 2 into the same one. So that was the end of row 11. So now we're going on to row 12. Let's yarn over our hook, pull through, turn our work. For row 12, we're going to single crochet into the next 11 stitches and then end off with an increase. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And then let's do our increase into this last stitch here. That is 1 and 2. So now to end this off, let's yarn over, pull through for a chain of 1, and then turn our work. So now we're going to start on row 13. For row 13, we're single crocheting into the next 12 stitches and then ending off with an increase. So let's go into our corner stitch for 1 single crochet, 2, 3, 4, and this is my 12th single crochet. And then lastly, we're going to increase into our last stitch. That was 1 and 2. So now let's chain 1 and turn our work. You can see that our triangle is now expanding some more. So let's go on to row 14 for another increase. We're going to start off by single crocheting into the next 13 stitches. So let's go into our corner stitch. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 11, 12, and 13. So into our last stitch, let's do an increase. That's 1 single crochet and 2 single crochets into the same stitch, and then we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Okay, so for row 15, we're going to single crochet into the next 14 stitches and then increase, and this is the last time we'll be doing an increasing row. So let me start off by going into this corner stitch, and again we're single crocheting into the next 14 stitches. 2, 3, 12, 13, and 14. And then you want to increase into our last stitch here. So this is 1, 2. And then we're going to chain 1, turn our work. So row 16, we're just single crocheting the entire way through, which means we'll end up with 16 stitches in total for this row. And this is also our last row working with our orange yarn. So I'm going into my corner stitch here. And remember, this is just a single crochet throughout the entire way through. I made it into my last stitch here, which means this is going to be my 16th single crochet. And remember, we're doing no increases. And now we're going to attach our yellow yarn. So what we want to do here is just remember to leave a little loop and cut off some of this excess yarn. So now that we cut off our orange yarn, let's take our yellow yarn and do the same thing by making a little loop. And then you want to take your hook. Remember, so right now this is my front piece. You can see I don't have the backing on this one here. So what I'm going to do is just, I keep it on my front piece. I'm taking my hook and going from the back side into this loop. Let's put my yarn, pull it through. And then I'm going to take the orange part and pull it down. And then now moving to the back side, I'm just only going to take this short piece here, go to the back, and let's just tighten this up by making 2 knots, 2 or 1, whatever you're more comfortable with. So that was 1, and then I'll tie it 1 more time. Okay, so now let's just flip it back to the front side, and then we're going to take our hook and insert it back into the yellow, pull it down. So now we have to chain 1, pull through, and then for our yellow, sorry, I had to check my pattern really quick, but for our yellow, for row 17 to row 20, which means it's 4 rows, we're just going to be single crocheting the entire way through. So you're just going to be working into your corner stitches, and you're just single crocheting, no increases this time, because I didn't want the triangle to be like too pointy. I wanted it to kind of curve at the end, which let me show you here. So this one, I feel like it's a little bit more curved since this right here is all single crochets and no increases. So let's just do, well, I'll show you 1 row, but after that I will finish the rest off camera. So this right now is row 17. So this corner stitch here, let's just go in with the yellow and single crochet. So that was 1. And remember, this is only going to be 16 single crochets for each row. This is 14, 15, and 16 stitches. So now once you reach the end, you want to chain 1, turn your work, and then this is currently row 18 that I'm going to be working on. And remember, you still go into your corner stitches. So I will finish row 18, 19, and 20 off camera. Again, that is 4 rows of single crochets. I'm about to finish row 20, but I wanted to show you what the yellow currently looks like. So you can see that the edge right here is a little bit weird looking. It's kind of not even, but don't worry about that because we will be single crocheting throughout this entire edge to make it a little bit more neat. I wanted to mention one more thing. So I'm currently working on row 20, and when you're working on row 20, you want to make sure that the outside of the piece is currently facing you, because when we single crochet the border, it's going to be easier that way, and also it should be facing you at this point. Once I finish row 20, this is what my candy corn is looking like. So now we're going to work on the border. So with the border, we will be color changing as well. So let's first start off with yellow, since of course we're already on it. So now for the border, we're just going to single crochet these edges. So there's no really real stitches right here, so you can just go into whatever you see. So I see this opening right here at this corner, so I'm just going to single crochet there. So that was 1, and then I see an opening here, so I'm just going to single crochet into that. Now when I reach into this spot right here, I'm just going to pull it a little bit and I can see an opening, so I'll just single crochet into that. And now we are done with the yellow. So we're not done yet, we have to reattach it again later, but what I'm going to do is actually cut it off right now because I want to attach my orange yarn. So remember, leave your loop there and then cut off some excess yarn. So now that I cut off my yellow, I'm going to take my orange yarn and I'm going to turn this over really quick, and then I'm going to make my loop and I'm going to put it inside this yellow loop by taking it and pulling it through. And then I'm going to take the yellow, pull it down, and take my 2 pieces here. And I'm only going to tie it once this time. I'll tie it one more time a little bit later, but now I'm going to flip it over and work with my orange yarn. So we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to single crochet our orange border. So I'm just going into this corner here, literally go into anything you can find space so you can single crochet. This is what the edges are currently looking like. So now I'm just going to take this out, and I'm actually going to tie this piece one more time just to make sure it's secure, because I tied it once before. Okay, so now with the orange, what we're going to do is the same thing what we did here. Let's just cut off some of this yarn, and now let's grab our white yarn. Literally the same process. Let's take our white yarn, make a little loop, turn this over, go inside this loop of the orange, take our white one through, and then take your orange yarn and, oops, that's this one here. Take your orange yarn and pull it down and tie the two pieces together, so the orange and the white one. I tied the knot once, I'll tie it again later on, but first let's take our hook, go back into the white, and now let's single crochet this border. Okay, so while I'm single crocheting this, I want to tell you guys what happened last night. So I've been having like really scary dreams, but last night it was so weird. So I didn't have like my blanket on the bottom part of my body, so like my leg was exposed to the air so the ghost, you know, can get to me. But it was so weird because I felt like 2 taps on my foot, like someone was waking me up. And so I literally jumped out of bed, and then I checked the time because I thought my mom woke me up to like walk my dog, and it was only 10:30 at night. Okay, so let me get to this part. So at this corner piece, let's just go into, so you can see there's this little triangle at the top. I'm going to go into this one here, and then when I reach the corner, I'm not going to go into like chain 1 or anything. I'm just going to go straight into the stitch here that's like really big at the opening, and just go into that. Originally I was thinking about chaining 1, but I didn't really like the look of that, so I just ended up going into like straight into the, they're not stitches, but you know, kind of those openings. So anyways, yeah, I checked the time, it was only 10:30. I usually walk my dog like at 4 something or 3 something in the morning. Anyways, so that like really scared me because I went to go check and everyone was sleeping. So I don't know what touched me or what happened, but I ended up going to sleep in the living room on the floor, and yeah, that was really creepy. I wonder what's happening to me because I've been having like gory dreams, and now like something tapped me on my foot. Oh my gosh, it's because it's Halloween or it's October. But anyways, so now that I ended off with this white, I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to take my scissors to attach my orange yarn now. So now to attach our orange yarn, let's take our candy corn, turn it over, and we'll create a loop with the orange. Take it into our white loop. Then pull our white yarn down. Tie a knot with the orange and the white. I do 1 knot first, and then I'll do another knot later. I did the other knot off camera. But now let's go with our orange at the front. And then we're just going to single crochet the orange border. I might speed this part up because it's just a repeat. Okay, so we're finally going back to our yellow yarn. So let's take our piece, turn it over to attach the yellow. Again, let's just create a loop and then take it through our orange loop. Pull this down. Let's tie a knot. So for our yellow, what we're going to do now is single crochet this entire bottom portion. So you're going to go at this corner piece, then around here, and then back up here. So let's go into these corners. So then when you get here, remember, don't chain one or anything, just go into your stitches. This time you will be able to see your stitches because it's the bottom part. So you can see these are all stitches here, so it'll be really easy. Just single crochet into each one of those. Back at this corner, you still want to single crochet up this area, even though we did it in the beginning. You just want to go back up. And then we want to cut off some yarn, but don't cut it off yet. I didn't want you to cut it off yet because we're actually going to use this yellow to sew the two pieces together. So when you take your yarn, make sure you have enough to sew the sides. I always take more than I think I need just to be on the safe side. So I'm going to take about this much here. I probably won't even need this much, but I'm going to take this much and then I'm going to cut off some of this yarn. I say I don't need this much and I took more. Okay, so just cut off some of this excess. It's always better to be safe, and of course you can use the excess piece to stuff it in. But now you see we have our loop here. Let's just pull it all the way out. So all this yarn is going to go through here and we're going to sew this up later. But before we do that, let's put on the face. So for the face, I'm just going to take my eyes. I'm using 9mm safety eyes. I do like 10, but I wanted to test out these colored eyes. And I just like to place them on the orange. You can place it wherever you want, but I'm going to place it on the orange and find where I like it. So I think I like it right here, and I'm just going to put on the backing for this. So people always tell me that I always make my eyes like wide set. So I'm trying to put it a little bit closer so it doesn't look so weird. I don't know, I like mine's a little bit further apart, but this is what the eyes look like. And now I'm going to attach the mouth. The mouth, I'm taking my embroidery thread and I'm just going to place it through. You don't have to use black, you can use whatever color you have, like red will probably be cute too. So I'm just putting that into the needle, and then I'm going to go from the back side. And honestly, I'm not the best at threading. I just place it wherever I think I want the mouth to be. I think I want it here, or is that too weird? Maybe here. Okay, yeah. So then I'll just pull it through, and then next I'm going to go into the stitch right here to make the mouth go back down. So that's what it looks like. And then I'm going to go back from the back side, push it in this one here so I can match up with this side. And then I'm gonna go back into this middle piece and let's see what that looks like. Ooh, I like that. Okay. Usually it looks too triangle-y, but this one turned out good. So now I'm just going to turn it around and I'm going to tie these two pieces together to make it secure. Okay, so I tied that a couple of times, and I know this is a long piece, but I'm just going to use it as stuffing. So now this is what he looks like. So then I'm going to take my other piece. Here's my other piece, and I'm just going to place it together. So you can see these are the inside pieces. So I'm just going to lay them like that. And then let's sew this together. You want to take your threading needle and insert your yellow yarn through. And then now we are going to sew this. I think I made this too long, so I might trim it a bit. Okay, so yeah, my yarn is definitely too long, so I'm just going to cut it. So what we're going to do here is take our two pieces, make sure it's even together. So let's see, here is where it's currently at. So what I'm going to do is go through this yellow here, this yellow corner, and I'm going straight into the corner of the back side. And I'm just literally pulling my needle and yarn all the way through. And make sure you can get the excess pieces out of the way, push it in. Okay, so now I'm gonna go from the back side push it into the orange now. So you can see I just went into the orange and I'm pulling it through. So it's just basically going in and out. So now that I went back in, I'm gonna go this way into the next stitch. So you can see this is currently at this yellow piece, this orange piece, and now I'm going into the next stitch over into that and into the back and just pulling it out. So you see, you can't really see the yellow thread. So next I'm going into the stitch here, into the front one, and pulling it. I'll just show that a couple more times and then I'll finish the rest off camera. Okay, so I'm currently in this stitch. You can see the yellow yarn. Now I'm going into the next one, and then the next one in the other piece, pulling it through. Then we're going into the next stitch over, which is this guy, into this one as well. Alrighty, so I think I've shown that enough times now, or maybe I should show it one more time. Okay, so let's go into this next stitch and this one as well. Now I'm going to finish it off camera, but let's show you what it looks like. So this is what it currently looks like. It's holding together. So I'm just going to go around this corner and leave the bottom open so we can still stuff it. So I'll be back after I finish this small corner and then we'll stuff it. Guys, so I made it back to this little corner piece and you can see the bottom is still open. So I wanted to mention that you can kind of see the stitching on the white part. So if you want it, you could attach white yarn instead. But honestly, we're going to be covering it because of the mummy wrapping anyways. So hopefully that yellow part doesn't bother you. But now let's stuff our project. Okay, so I mentioned earlier in this video that I didn't have any more stuffing, so I will be using some scrap pieces of yarn and I'm just going to push this in the middle. So this is how much I stuffed it. I didn't fill it all the way yet because I don't want it to get caught when I sew some of the bottom portion. So I'm just going to sew about like half of this and then I'll stuff it some more. So let me just finish up let me finish up with this corner. Okay, so I reached back to the yellow side. So you can see I'm here now. So the way that I end this off is I'm going to take my needle. I'm going to go through a stitch. And I'm not going to pull all the way through. So you see this loop I have where my thumb is. I'm not going to let that go through. I'm actually going to pull some of that yarn. And now I'm going to take my needle and go through this loop. And pull it tight. So that's one way to secure it. Honestly, I'm still not really good at securing stuff, but that's the way that I usually close my stuff. So I'm going to do that again into a different stitch. So I'm going to go into this one here. And we're also going to be covering it anyways when we do the wrapping with the white yarn. So again, don't pull it all the way. You have this loop still. So now we take our needle, go through this loop, and tighten it up. So next, with this excess piece of yarn, you can just stuff it back into your project. So this is going to take me a while, but you take the back of your needle or your hook and you just push it back into a stitch that's closest to where it is. So I'll finish this part off camera because it's going to take me a while. This is what our candy corn currently looks like. So now we can start to work on the chain for the white portion where we're going to wrap around this guy. We want to take our white yarn now and we're going to start off with a slip knot. So a slip knot is what we did in the beginning, where I like to take my yarn and hold it in half like this, and then I'll twist it. And then with this loop portion, I'm going to grab the continuous yarn and pull it through, so the yarn that I'm going to be working with. And then I'll take my hook and insert it back into the loop. I'll pull on the strings here and tighten it up. So now a chain is just going to yarn over a hook and pull through. So that's one. I'll show you that again. A chain is yarning over and pulling through. So the chain I'm going to make is a chain of 250. You can go up to 300 or more depending on how much you want to wrap your mummy. So let me show you what a chain of 250 looks like. Chain of 250 will look like this. This is about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It wraps around about 8 times depending on where you're going to place it. So if you wanted to go more, you can. Also, if you're not sure, you can just cut it off and do another. It's not like it has to be one continuous one. It could be a couple of different chains. So this again is a chain of 250. If you like to go up to more or less, feel free to do that. So I will finish the 250 off camera because it's pretty simple. You're just literally yarning over and pulling through. So I will do this until I get to 250. This is what my chain looks like, and it kind of looks like shoelaces right now. So once you're done, just cut off your yarn and then you will have something like this. What you can do now is just pull it out and tighten it like that, and then we can cut off this piece later, but now we're going to be working with our hot glue. So I'm going to plug that in and move my location because it's near the outlet. So I'm just going to heat that up really quick and I'll show you how I glue it on. So before I glue anything, what I like to do is just take my chain and I'll wrap it to place it where I think I want it, and then I'll start to glue it on. So I do start from the bottom and I take the end piece and put it on the back side here. I go from the yellow first, and I think I kind of want to make it crisscross. And then I'll turn it, wrap it a couple times, and then I go to the top. Again, I'm just placing it where I think I want it. Okay, so I think I want something like that. Dog hair everywhere. Okay, so now I'm just going to take this apart and then I'll hot glue it now. Now I have my glue gun, and again, start from the back side and just place some glue down. I just go little by little in case I mess up. And be careful because it is hot. Okay, so do I want it this way? I think I'm gonna go up a little bit like this. Okay, so for this part, I think I'm going to make it connect. So I'm just going to glue it down to this side, and then I'll cut this part off later. I have everything glued down. I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut off this excess piece of yarn. And this one here. And I am done. We've made it to the end of our video, and this is what our candy corn mummy looks like. I think he's so adorable. I love the green eyes on this one. I like the black eyes as well, but I think the green adds just a little bit more to this Halloween look. And I think I'll have one more Halloween tutorial left. We'll see what I can come up with, but if you guys made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.